Dear listener, enter the mist-shrouded, wind-swept wilderness of Dartmoor, where ancient family curses collide with cold scientific reason. The Hound of the Baskervilles is one of Sherlock Holmes's most chilling and beloved adventures, a Gothic masterpiece of superstition, greed, murder, and a spectral beast that may not be spectral at all. Narrated largely through Dr. Watson's faithful reports, the story begins with a simple walking stick in Baker Street and descends into terror on the lonely moors. Every chapter, every gigantic footprint, every distant howl, every brilliant deduction, and every hidden motive will be revealed here in rich, vivid detail. Nothing important shall be missed. The game is afoot, and the hound is on the moor. Chapter 1. Mr. Sherlock Holmes. It was a fine September morning in 1889 when Dr. John H. Watson stood upon the hearthrug at 221B, Baker Street, thoughtfully examining a thick, bulbous-headed walking stick that had been left behind by a visitor the previous night. The stick bore a silver band inscribed, "To James Mortimer, MRCS, from his friends of the CCH, 1884. Watson, attempting to emulate his friend's methods, deduced that the owner was likely an elderly country practitioner, amiable, unambitious, and fond of walking. Sherlock Holmes, lounging in his armchair with his back to Watson, listened with quiet amusement. Without turning, he praised Watson's effort, but swiftly corrected and expanded upon it with dazzling precision. CCH stood not for a hunting club, but for Charing Cross Hospital. The presentation date suggested a young house surgeon who had recently left a London hospital for rural practice. The heavy wear on the stick indicated much walking, and the bite marks on the lower part revealed a curly-haired spaniel, larger than a terrier, smaller than a mastiff. Holmes even deduced the visitor's approximate age, character, and absent-minded nature. Watson was astonished, as always. Holmes revealed he had observed Watson's reflection in the silver coffee pot. The bell rang, and the visitor himself appeared, Dr. James Mortimer, a tall, thin young man under 30, with a long nose, prominent gray eyes behind gold-rimmed spectacles, and a friendly, yet somewhat eccentric air. He carried a spaniel and had come not for a medical consultation, but with a problem blending ancient legend and modern mystery. Holmes's keen eyes sparkled with interest as Mortimer prepared to share an old family manuscript. Chapter 2. The Curse of the Baskervilles. Dr. Mortimer drew from his pocket an ancient manuscript dating from 1742, written by one Hugo Baskerville. He read aloud the dark legend in a trembling voice. In the time of the Great Rebellion, the wicked Hugo Baskerville, a wild, cruel, and godless man, became obsessed with a beautiful farmer's daughter. He and his drunken companions kidnapped her and imprisoned her at Baskerville Hall while they caroused. The maiden escaped across the treacherous moor. In a rage, Hugo swore he would give his soul to the powers of evil if he could overtake her. He mounted his black horse, unleashed his pack of hounds, and rode furiously in pursuit. His companions later found a scene of horror. The girl lay dead of fear and exhaustion on the moor. Nearby lay Hugo Baskerville, also dead, with a gigantic, coal-black hound standing over him, larger than any mortal dog, tearing at his throat. The beast's eyes and jaws glowed with fire. From that night onward, the Baskerville family was cursed. A hellish hound haunted the moor, bringing death to any Baskerville who ventured out after dark. The legend had persisted for generations, whispered with terror by the locals. Mortimer then revealed the modern tragedy. 3 months earlier, his friend Sir Charles Baskerville, the kind, wealthy, and philanthropic baronet, had died suddenly at Baskerville Hall. His body was found on the edge of the moor near the yew alley, his face twisted in an expression of extreme horror. Though Sir Charles suffered from heart trouble, the circumstances were suspicious. No marks of violence were on the body, but nearby in the soft gravel were the clear footprints of a gigantic hound. The locals whispered that the Baskerville curse had claimed another victim. Mortimer, a man of science, feared for the new heir and sought Holmes's brilliant mind to separate fact from fearful superstition. Chapter 3. The Problem. Holmes listened with intense concentration, questioning every detail. Mortimer described the exact scene. Sir Charles had taken his usual evening walk along the yew alley, a path between two high, dense yew hedges leading to a moor gate. The night was clear with a full moon. His footprints showed he had walked calmly at first, then suddenly began running in terror toward the gate. No other human footprints were near the body, but the enormous hound prints were unmistakable and terrifying in size. Sir Charles had apparently been waiting for someone that night. A crumpled letter from a woman named Laura Lyons was found in his pocket. Holmes examined the manuscript carefully and agreed the case was extraordinary, a rare blend of ancient family legend and contemporary crime. As they discussed, a telegram arrived announcing that Sir Henry Baskerville, the new heir from Canada, had just landed in London. Mortimer had arranged to meet him. Holmes advised extreme caution and asked Mortimer to bring Sir Henry to Baker Street the following morning at 10 o'clock. The great detective's mind was already at work on the threads of this baffling mystery. Chapter 4. Sir Henry Baskerville. The next morning, Sir Henry Baskerville arrived at Baker Street, a sturdy, weather-beaten man in his early 30s with a strong, determined face and the bearing of one who had lived an outdoor life in Canada. He brought two troubling items: a mysterious anonymous letter, composed of words cut from a newspaper, warning, "As you value your life or your reason, keep away from the moor." The letter had been posted in London the previous day. Additionally, one of his new boots had mysteriously disappeared from his hotel, followed later by an old boot. Holmes examined the letter under a magnifying glass, noting the type of paper, ink, and handwriting quirks. A bearded stranger had been seen following Sir Henry in the street. Holmes found these incidents highly significant. Someone was clearly trying to frighten the new baronet away from claiming his inheritance in Baskerville Hall. He warned Sir Henry of the dangers and advised him not to travel to Devon alone. Instead, Holmes arranged for Dr. Watson to accompany Sir Henry and Dr. Mortimer to Baskerville Hall, while Holmes himself remained in London to pursue other lines of inquiry. Watson felt both excited and apprehensive about the responsibility. Chapter 5. 3 Broken Threads. Before their departure, Holmes investigated the warning letter and the bearded follower, but the threads seemed to break frustratingly. The hotel boot theft suggested the Hound, or its handler, needed Sir Henry's personal scent. The bearded man vanished without trace. Holmes gave Watson careful instructions: observe everything, report every detail faithfully by letter, and above all, guard Sir Henry closely, especially at night. He warned of hidden forces at work and the possible presence of a real, deadly danger on the moor. Watson, Sir Henry, and Dr. Mortimer prepared to journey to Devonshire. Chapter 6. Baskerville Hall. The journey by train took them from the bustle of London into the wild, rugged beauty of Dartmoor. The landscape grew bleaker. Vast expanses of granite tors, treacherous green mires, especially the infamous Grimpen Mire, scattered prehistoric stone huts, and a sense of primeval desolation. Baskerville Hall itself was a grim, ancient mansion of gray stone, with a forbidding facade, ivy-covered walls, and the famous yew alley where Sir Charles had met his end. The servants, Mr. and Mrs. Barrymore, greeted them. Barrymore was tall, bearded, and dignified. His wife was pale, nervous, and seemingly on the edge of tears. That first night, Watson heard a woman sobbing bitterly somewhere in the house. Strange, mournful howls echoed from the distant moor. News came that a dangerous convict named Selden, the notorious Notting Hill murderer, had escaped from nearby Princetown prison and was hiding on the moor. The oppressive atmosphere of the ancient curse weighed heavily on everyone. Chapter 7. The Stapletons of Merripit House. Watson began exploring the neighborhood. He met Jack Stapleton, a thin, energetic naturalist living with his strikingly beautiful sister Beryl at nearby Merripit House. Stapleton was enthusiastic about the moor's rare plants, butterflies, and geology, but he warned Watson strongly about the dangers of wandering into the Grimpen Mire, which could swallow a man without trace. Beryl Stapleton seemed frightened and secretly urged Watson to persuade Sir Henry to leave the moor immediately for his own safety. Strange rumors about the Hound continued to circulate. Watson sensed unseen watchers and growing tension. Chapter 8. First Report of Dr. Watson. In his first detailed letter to Holmes, Watson described the suspicious behavior of the Barrymores. At night, Barrymore was seen signaling with a candle at a window, flashing toward the moor. Watson and Sir Henry followed him and discovered the signals were intended for the escaped convict Selden, who turned out to be Mrs. Barrymore's younger brother. The couple had been helping him with food and clothing out of family loyalty. Sir Henry began to show romantic interest in Beryl Stapleton, but her brother Jack reacted with surprising anger and possessiveness. Chapter 9. The Light Upon the Moor. Second Report of Dr. Watson. Tension continued to rise. Watson observed a mysterious tall, thin figure silhouetted against the moonlight on the moor, clearly not the convict Selden. Sir Henry grew restless and more determined. The unearthly howls echoed again. Watson and Sir Henry confronted Barrymore, who confessed the signals were to aid Selden's escape. Later, the convict was found dead on the moor, his body horribly mangled, apparently killed by the Hound. Fear gripped the household. Chapter 10. Extract from the Diary of Dr. Watson. Watson continued his private diary entries, recording his growing unease and isolation. Sir Henry's attraction to Beryl deepened despite obstacles. The mysterious figure on the moor persisted. Watson felt increasingly responsible for Sir Henry's safety and sensed hidden, malevolent forces closing in around Baskerville Hall. Chapter 11. The Man on the Tour. Determined to solve the mystery of the figure on the moor, Watson set out alone and tracked the man to an old stone hut. To his utter astonishment, the man revealed himself. It was Sherlock Holmes. Holmes had been secretly living on the moor for days, conducting his own investigations while sending Watson detailed instructions. He had deduced a great deal. Jack Stapleton was not who he claimed to be. Holmes pointed out a crucial clue. An old family portrait of a wicked Baskerville ancestor bore a striking resemblance to Stapleton, suggesting a hidden family connection and a motive involving inheritance. He also mentioned the role of Laura Lyons, the woman Sir Charles had planned to meet on the night of his death. Chapter 12. Death on the Moor. The climax built rapidly. Holmes devised a trap. Sir Henry was invited to dine with the Stapletons and instructed to walk home alone across the moor. Holmes, Watson, and Inspector Lestrade, who had been summoned, hid in wait near the path. A thick, deadly fog rolled in from the mire, reducing visibility and heightening the terror. Suddenly, a blood-curdling howl pierced the night. The gigantic hound appeared, eyes and jaws glowing with phosphorescent fire, charging like a demon towards Sir Henry. Holmes and Watson fired their revolvers. The beast collapsed, mortally wounded. It was no supernatural creature, but a massive, powerful dog deliberately painted with luminous phosphorus to create a hellish glow in the darkness. Chapter 13. Fixing the Nets. With the hound dead, the investigators closed in on Stapleton's house. They found Beryl Stapleton bound and gagged. She was actually Stapleton's wife, not his sister, and had been cruelly mistreated and forced to participate in his schemes. Stapleton himself had fled into the Grimpen mire in panic. Despite warnings, he attempted to cross the treacherous bog and vanished forever, sucked down into the deadly mire. The net had closed. Chapter 14. The Hound of the Baskervilles. Holmes explained the entire brilliant solution in his characteristic calm manner. Stapleton was a distant Baskerville relative who had plotted to eliminate the heirs using the ancient legend as cover. He had purchased a powerful hound, kept it hidden, painted it with phosphorus, and used it first to terrify Sir Charles into a fatal heart attack, then to target Sir Henry. All clues fitted perfectly. The stolen boots for scenting the dog, the candle signals, the portrait resemblance, the manipulated letter from Laura Lyons, and the use of the Grimpen mire as a natural weapon. Greed for the Baskerville fortune had driven the cold, calculated crime. The supernatural Hound was unmasked as a product of human villainy and scientific trickery. Chapter 15. A Retrospection. In the peaceful aftermath back in London, Holmes and Watson reviewed the case. Sir Henry, though shaken, survived and later traveled abroad to recover his health. Beryl Stapleton provided further details of her husband's ruthless scheme. Holmes reflected philosophically on the blend of legend and logic, and on the dangers of greed. Watson, ever loyal, had proven his courage and resourcefulness once again. The curse of the Baskervilles was finally broken, not by ancient rites, but by the power of observation, deduction, and friendship. Closing narration. And so ends this extraordinary Hound of the Baskervilles, a tale where the mists of superstition part before the clear light of reason. The hellish howls on the moor, the glowing eyes in the fog, and the ancient curse have been explained, yet the terror lingers in memory. Sherlock Holmes triumphed once more, proving that no mystery, however dark or seemingly supernatural, can withstand the force of logic. If your heart raced with the howls and your breath caught in the fog-bound chase, then Sir Arthur Conan Doyle has woven his magic perfectly. The moor may fall silent, but the adventures of Holmes and Watson are eternal. The game, dear listener, is always afoot.